Welcome to something to talk about. Really loud. Welcome to something to talk about.
Hi, welcome to Something to Talk About. My name is Taco, and this is one of those House of the Dragon television show reviews and differences. Yeah, Smallfolk, Season 2, Episode 6, review and major differences. And spoilers for the episode. I will be covering everything from this episode, so if you don't want to know anything about it, don't watch. Sorry. That's what I'm doing today. I'm sorry. And then afterwards, I will be discussing differences. Most of this episode is major differences, but just the ones I want to talk about. You guys ready? One more spoiler warning, and then we're getting into it. Lions and horses. Horses. Oh, wow. I said horses really good. Horses. Do you guys get it, though? Because Lannisters are horses. At least two of them. All right. Hello, Lannisters. They show up at the Golden Tooth riding themselves with some actual lions. What are they going to do with those lions? What are they doing with them? They going to train them? You going to tame them? You're going to do some lion taming? You're going to send them into battle? I don't see that as a good idea. What are they going to do with those lions? I can't wait to see it. I'm you don't introduce Chekhov's lions without showing us. Man, I am intrigued. Right. Okay. They have a huge host, right? Like thousands. And they decide to just hang out and wait for Aemon at the Golden Tooth. Is that, man, I normally know. Golden Tooth. That's House Lefford. All right, I paused it and Googled it. I forgot. I normally know these things. I didn't write it down, though. That's what I get for trying to remember stuff. Good at other stuff. All right, so they stop and they're just wait for Aemon. They show up and it's you ready to invade the Riverlands? He's like, no, send a letter to Aemon and tell him to come down here and do it himself. Balls. It's balls there, Jason. Showing some balls. All right. This, of course, angers Cyclops. That is his X-Men nickname. He said leans. He learns of some horse. What? He leans of some horse. Oh, he leans on. Yeah, he just leans on Thailand, who's a famous horse. Just kind of gets up in his grill. He gets into his bubble a little bit. And then he demands a deal with the Triarchy from across the Narrow Sea. They speak on how to bring in the Red Kraken. They're like, hey, what about the Red Kraken Greyjoy? Lord Dalton. Red Kraken's Dalton? Red Kraken, right? Dalton Greyjoy? Yeah. I'm going to go with that. Yeah, Red Kraken, Dalton Greyjoy. I was right. Okay, they're like, how do we bring in Red Kraken, who's at least in the books, this angry 16-year-old Greyjoy? And they're like, what about marrying the Dowager Queen? And Alicent's like, yeah, no. No way. Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. Ironrod suggests Alicent marrying him. Lol. Ironrod's bold, dude. Aemon is like, so let's go fight Daemon and stuff. He's like, Cole, get over there. Fight Daemon. He suggests that Daemon's afraid of him. He's like, well, he's hiding from me because he's afraid to face me. They're all like, what? That's pretty funny. Aemon wants a word with Mummy, and he fires her. He's like, yeah, you're fired. Bye. She tries to argue, but he just is like, I see. But he just, I said good day, sirs. Her. I said good day, sir. It's pretty. He's like, Mom, you're fired. And she's like, well. And he's like, I said good day. And then she gets up into his grill. People getting in the bubbles in this whole thing. This whole small castle scene. A lot of bubble popping. A lot of getting in the bubbles. Where was I? Yeah. So I said good day to her, and then she touches his face and speaks of avenging his eye and how it should be avenged at this point. So she's like, don't you think past transgressions have been avenged? And what she's really saying is like, what are you mad about still? Like, why are you still so angry? And he's like, shut up, mom. I don't need you. I got a sex worker for this mom stuff. Jeez. All right, that was a little harsh. Me. Yeah, I was. I'm sorry. All right. Team, so here we go. Team Black, let's go. Corlys puts on his Hand of the Queen pendant and waits for the Black Council to start. I mean, I wouldn't. Black Council is usually pretty lame. They bring in Stefan Darklyn. Yeah. The Lord Commander of Rhaenys Kingsguard, Stefan Darklyn. She asked him to find some dragon riders for Vermithor, Silverwing, and Seasmoke. And Stefan is like, Rhaena? And she's like, no, you. He's like, cool. All right. And then she's like, you may die. And he goes, I don't mind. I don't mind stealing dragons from the mouths of decadence. I can't. All right. Owls and dragons. Look at that owl. It almost doesn't even look photoshopped. It almost doesn't. Maybe it's a real owl. Maybe I'm just talking trash. And now for the creepy hair and owl power hour. Daemon walks into Viserys' throne room, and the king asks about his like heir for the day speech. And Vizzy sends him to Runestone, but Daemon just can't leave. So this whole Daemon hallucinogenic power hour theme for this episode is apologies, essentially. It's him going more into the past. He's not like banging his mom in this episode. It's more about like him getting forgiveness specifically from Viserys. Right? Right. Wrong one. Yeah. So then Simon opens the door for him. God, I love Simon. Simon asks if he's been sleeping, and Damon's like, have I been sleeping? Daemon asks who keeps putting acid in his water, and then he pulls a knife on Simon. He's like, you're going to be sleeping. And he asks who number 2 works for. I was in a weird mood when I wrote this script. Who does number 2 work for? I mean, who's been poisoning my drugs? Poison my drugs. Then he walks away all mad to go fly on Caraxes. And then Allie's is there. Allie's is like, it's a ghost. She speaks of other things like old gods and calls Daemon a piece. Like, you're not a player, you're a piece. And he's like, I've always been a player. They talk in front of the weirwood, not symbolism at all, speaking about the burden of a crown and how Viz never wanted it, and neither did Rhaenyra, and that's why they're good at it. Then he just straight up asks Allie's for help. He just asks for counsel. She speaks of the Tullys. She's like, well, go kill Grover. And he's like, no, you. She says that rivermen are made of mud, and then summons an owl. Is she just messing with him? Dang old owl ghosts. There's owl ghosts. Dang owl ghosts. Back to Team Black. Summons a dragon for Stefan. Who will it be? Which dragon? This will go well. Seasmoke comes up, and it's Seasmoke, ladies and gentlemen. Seasmoke, Laenor Valerion's former dragon. He's only had one rider, and it's Laenor Valerion, and we're pretty sure Laenor is still alive, but he must not be because of this. How will this go, folks? Not great. Yeah, so he comes up, the Dragon Keepers try to help, and they tell him to not show fear. And as Stefan, proceeds to just boo himself. Not really, but it's true. Don't show fear. Okay. No, don't show. I'm not showing fear. I'm not. I'm sorry, but I would be like, if they're like, don't show fear, and he's like, All right, I already screwed this up. I should just go. Yeah, you should go. Okay. Yeah. Where was I? So yeah, so the dragon kneels and he's like, and he says, "I've done it." And then Seasmoke makes him, "Well done. We're gonna need another Timmy." You know what? You know what? Get that reference? Oh my god, I was really on one when I was writing the script. We're gonna need another Timmy. I should get a clip for that. That's good stuff. All right, fish and sheep. I'm doing like a theme for most of these slides, right? Had like lions and horses, owls and dragons, fish and sheep. No, I thought I was doing good. On to Alan and Adam. Corley's wants to make Alan his first mate, and Alan kind of bucks. He's like, "Nah, I don't want to." And hey, look, Off the White is eating fish. Sylvie, yeah, that was Sylvie, talks about how the royals get cake and stuff. That's not what she said, but I'm making a let them eat cake reference. She's like, yeah, but like they're all up there being they're French, and we need a French Revolution, right? That's what she says. They're like, let them eat cake. So yeah, she's mad that the rich folk are doing rich folk stuff, and they're just sitting here eating fish. Rhaenyra slaps Bartimos Celtigar for not fearing her. He's just like, hey, you got Stephen Darkland burned, and she's like, yeah, so, and he's like, you kind of suck, and she's like, you know what, I'm sick of this. Wham! Probably not a good idea. Definitely needed to happen though. I would have done it. Guess sucks, man. Her council sucks. That's progress. That's what I wrote. See, I'm totally on her side there. Slap up Celtigar. Slap up Bartimos's. Bartimos? Yeah, I'm going to go with Bartimos. She picks up a sword wishing she was Visenya. Yeah, she like kind of like does some sword stuff. And I think that's like meant to symbolize how she was trying to learn how to be a strong female ruler like Visenya last episode. Right? The Miz, that's what I call Massaria. The Miz suggests they keep trying with the dragon seed. She's like, hey, we should do more. She speaks of Smallfolk, and Rhaenyra speaks of a plan. She's like, wait for the plan. Cat. Am I supposed to spell Ulf the White's wife with a K or a C? I went with C. Should I pause it and look it up? I've been doing that so much already this time. I'm sure you guys noticed. It is a K's, and I spelled it with a C here. One of many things I spelled wrong already. Cat tries to get food, cat food, if you will, and there is none. They like run out, and then a bunch of sheep get brought to the dragons. So that's cool. Sylvie didn't even need to go in there and like stir propaganda. Like none of that was false. Like she's like, hey, you should tell a rumor about how we have no food and the crown has a bunch. And Sylvie's like, so the truth? I should just bring it up more? Yeah, just talk about it more. Oh, okay. That's what she does. Sylvie. Yeah, so so a bunch of sheep get brought in. Where was I? I'm so bad at reading these. Yeah, brought to the dragons. Larry's, now flipping over there, tells Aemon about the title of the episode, which is Smallfolk. And he's like, so? Hey, the Smallfolk have an entire episode named after them. There's probably going to be a riot. And Aemon's like, yeah, so? Yeah, so? Yeah, so? Larry's then says, he's like, hey, you need a hand. And he's like, yeah, Larry's, go get me one. And little Larry's like, you mean me? And Aemon's like, no, you toad. He literally calls him a toad. He's like, go get me Otto. And then Orwell says, Aegon is doing better. So yeah, Orwell pops in. He's like, hey, fake king, real king's doing better. Can you imagine if Orwell ever did that? Hey, crap king, better real crap king. Yeah, he's still a crap king. They both are. Where was I? Yeah, Aegon's doing better. Aemon goes for a visit. One Eye asks what he remembers, and then when Aegon, am I saying yeah, Aemond and Aegon, and when Aegon's like nothing, he gets a little tortury. Yeah, Aemond One Eye gets a little tortury. Maybe he didn't remember anything. He's like, I don't know, man. We had a dragon fight, and he's like, well, I guess since you're torturing me, you did something. You're blowing your cover, Aemond. Yeah. He gets a little tortury, and then he gives him back his ball, but he like tortures him with his own king ball. That's symbolism, right? Like his office has been torturing Aemond, and Aegon got burned for it. Now he's like shoving his office ball in his wound. Wow. Sentences, man. Sometimes I say them and they're a little weird. Yeah, right? That's gotta be symbolism. Okay. Where was I? Balls. Yeah. So back in the Vale, Rhaena is going for a walk with little Joffrey, I believe. And she finds like dragon burn stuff. Like, hey, a dragon's been burning stuff. And then Jane brings good news from Pentos. She's like, hey, Pentos is gonna like do stuff. And they're gonna send the Gay Abandon. And that's the name of the boat. And Rhaena is like, yeah, there's a dragon. Yeah. So there's like a huge deal here where George is a little upset because of changing of things of like, hey, dragons don't belong in anywhere, and he like lists a bunch of places, and at the end he says, or the Vale, and he's like, you need to lore actually matters, guys. And yeah, he's right. I'll talk more about it in the differences, but they are changing this plot a lot. Yeah, it is what it is. I'm not too mad because at the end of the day, at least
this isn't Game of Thrones. Ow!
So at least it's not gonna change it. I hope it doesn't get as changey and ignory and skip over entire book plots and then be like, well, we ran out of things to adapt. Yeah, because you didn't adapt them. Because you didn't adapt most of Feast or Dance. I'm not going to get into Game of Thrones. All I'm getting at is, so far, with just that one plot changing, I'm not so upset. Yes. We'll get more to it in the differences. But yeah, there's a dragon. There'll be a dragon. And yeah, Dragonstone, Adam, and Alan talk about Dad. I mean, Corlys. All right. They're like, Dad, I mean, Lord Valerion doesn't love me. Let's start a riot. A riot. This breaks my naming convention, but I really want to name it this. Rhaena broods, and little Jace opens up and calls roasting Lord Commander bold. He's like, yeah, we roasted the Lord Commander. It was a little bold of us. Yeah. It's your idea in the books. It's kind of his idea here too. And then he asks about slapping Barty Celtigari. And she's like, well, I'm sick of being treated like a girl, not a ruler. I'm a girl ruler. Start treating me like a ruler, not just a girl. They talk, and she's like, they're all afraid. They all think I'm afraid. They all want to protect me. And it's just like, let me be queen. All right. They talk about Daemon. God, always. Daemon. Marsha. And then the Miz drops that her, quote, gift is sent. After Jace leaves, she gives Miz a look. She's like, hello. And then Food washes ashore, flying the black dragon banner. Yeah, Food rode all the way to King's Landing by itself. Is that going to work? Does that work? Maybe. I don't know, man. That's a heck of a row. Row your food. Yeah, so Food washes ashore, flying her banner. Allison talks to Orwell about Aegon's recovery, and she asks about letters. She wrote Otto, but he still ain't calling. She left her cell, her pager, and her home phone at the bottom. No, seriously, I was totally in a funny mood when I wrote this script. House Beesbury rose against the Hightower host. Yeah, let's go. Buzz. All right, not to skip over Otto, but Otto ain't answering any of her calls, right? She goes to talk to somebody else about that next, but she's like, hey, Otto's not answering me, and Orwell's like, okay, man, did you write those letters back in autumn? He must not have got them. Sometimes you write letters too sloppy when you jot them. All right, I'll stop. All right. Oh, man. I'm going to say nobody's going to get that reference because it's kind of my catchphrase, but I'm sure everyone's going to get that reference. All right. And then she's like, oh, he goes, oh, did you hear about House Beesbury? And she's like, who? And they're like, he goes, like Lyman Beesbury. And she's like, who? He worked here for like 50 years. Yeah. Who? Yeah. So she goes to speak to Fisty, but Gawain sees her first, and she goes up and asks if he has spoke to Dad, which is Otto. And he's like, I wrote him, but he still ain't calling. All right, I'll stop. He says that she is Daddy's favorite. So let's unpack that. If she was Otto's favorite and he treated her that bad, I feel bad for Gawain. That's all I'm saying. And then he talks about Darren. He's real. Yes, Darren Targaryen is real, and he's 16. And Gawain says that he is stalwart and clever, and he's cool because he plays the guitar. All right, he says the lute. And yeah, he's like awesome. I hope we get to meet him soon. He plays the guitar. He sounds so cool. He says the Red Keep isn't a place to raise boys. And when she doubts herself, she's like, nah, it's just me. And he goes, nah, girl. It's probably both things, but yeah. Then she goes to talk to Fiston, but then Fiston Cole's like, nah. And then he cold shoulders her. He leaves. Next to Helena, who's playing with her bugs, and one of the crickets is not singing. It's sad to see Helena like regress, right? She's playing with her bugs again like we saw her do when she was little. Because, yeah, she's still kind of grieving, the loss of her son and possibly grieving the loss of her, like the injury of her husband. But we haven't actually seen her go talk to Aegon yet, so we don't actually know what she feels about that. Yeah. Where was I? So yeah, she's playing with her bugs again. It's actually really sad to see her like regress like that. The Smallfolk, including Hugh, get the food, and he punches someone for lettuce. And yeah, so let's talk about that. Hugh's character arc. I'm trying not to spoil anything, but we're starting to see that he will resort to violence if he feels like it is the right thing to do to protect his family. Right? Hugh, violent. It's going to be important. Hugh the hammer. All right. Hugh the smith. Where was I? So, yeah. The girls go praying. So she's like, hey, you want to come pray with me? And Helena's like, yeah, I'll do that. And then as they're praying, a white cloak is like, hey, the small folk totally doing a riot. And then old man like grabs her hand, and then dude just chops, like a white cloak just chops the old man's hand off, and then the riot really gets going. It really starts rioting, and the queens get away, but barely. It's actually really intense. A couple white cloaks probably died. It's okay, they sucked. But it gets pretty rioty. Ever since I wrote Let's Start a Riot, did I say Let's Start a Riot? Let's not actually start a riot. Okay, it's a joke. It's actually Tenacious D's song, but it's about how this episode has a riot. I don't want anyone to go riot, okay? But it's the Tenacious D song, City Hall. Let's start a riot, riot. That's what I was doing. I'm sure there's other songs that say that too. All right, we're done with that one, so we're moving on to The Dragon and the Miz. Scandalous smooching. Smooching. Up at Aegon's hospital room, Larry's denies meds for him. Jeez. He doesn't need those meds. You see him with your eyes, right? You can go now. What? You can't just do that. And then he tells him a tale. He's like, that helps with the pain, but it dulls the mind. And now that you're all broken and destroyed, you're going to need that mind because my foot is crooked and I needed my mind. Yeah, that's pretty much what he says. And then the king, he tells this king a story about his foot. He's like, yeah, we're all pretty sure Allie's rivers cursed me. That's pretty much what he says. And he gives a lesson about how being stared at and being mocked will mean that he's being underestimated, and that's a good thing. And Aegon begs for help. That scene was fantastic. All right, I do have to say Matthew Needham, the guy who plays Larry's, just kills it. Yeah, no, he is so good in that scene. That scene is amazing. All right, amazing. Okay, he's so good. And of course, I usually know his name. Do I have to pause and look another thing up? The guy who played Tom Glyn Carney. I'm so disappointed in myself that I looked that up. I've been talking about how good he's really good in it too, of course. But yeah, the guy who plays Larry's absolutely kills it in that scene. Back to the acid trip power hour. Whoa! Wait, do I got a thing for acid trips? Oh, I got this. It seriously really works. Whoa! It's my impression of Daemon right now. Don't ask why I just have a random SLC punk thing just loaded into my computer. Because I got two. I got this one too. I don't know why I have them. I just do. Don't worry about it. Where was I? So he's like, help. Yeah, so back to the acid trip power hour. Daemon walks in on Vizzy grieving. Daemon holds him and apologizes. Sorry for my yawn. Oh my god. He sees that it is Rhaenyra. I believe that's Rhaenyra. I believe that's who he is mourning. Simon wakes him up again. Oh my god, Simon. And he says that the skinny blue Muppet is dead and the grouchy Muppet is now the head Muppet. Grover Tully is dead and Oscar Tully is now in charge. He says that Allie's went and they helped. Oh no. It's like, yes, our own healer went to go help. Oh no. All right. Daemon smiles all creepy and then he starts to cry. Dude needs a vacation. All right, he needs to get out of there. He needs to leave Arenal and, I don't know, go to the Isle of Faces and have a nice little vacay. The trees. Seasmoke goes to have a word with Adam. So Seasmoke is like, all right, where's Adam of Hull? And Adam's just like doing some fishing stuff, and the dragon's like, you guys remember in Skyrim when just out of nowhere you heard a dragon? You're like, ah, dang it, I'm not a high enough level. I don't have anything on me. I don't have any potions. Too bad. You gotta fight it. Yeah. So where was I? Yeah, he goes to have a word. He's like, Adam of Hull, I will have a word with you. And then Adam falls off a cliff, and then Seasmoke kind of flirts with him. He gives him a flirty look. He's like, hello. You smell like a Lenore. He's like, ooh, what? Yeah. So the Miz and Rhaenyra talk again, and this time about Daemon. The Bectile test be damned. The queen doubts that she can win, and the Miz gives some awful backstory. Yeah, she says that her father abused her. She was abused by her own father, and then she can never bear children because of it, and that's why she knows the world is cruel. Yeah, wow, that was awful. Jeez, I feel so bad for the Miz. I should stop making fun of her and calling her the Miz. I won't, but I do feel bad. That's awful. And then she gives her a hug, and it's a good hug. One of them kissy hugs. Yeah, that's a good hug. You guys know that hug? You ever had that hug where you're like, you hug somebody, and then you're like, oh, there's more sparks than I thought. And then they're like head nuzzle, and then you're like, ooh, and then you head nuzzle back. And then there's some neck breathing. And you're like, oh, are we neck breathing? Are we like getting our mouths up in the necks? And then they do it, you do it back, and it's like, oh, we're gonna smooch, huh? That's a good hug, and you can't just like do that with anybody. With your spouse, your wife, or husband, you know that you can smooch them. So if you just go up and hug, there's none of that's there because you can kiss them. You know that a smooch is available. I'm hoping a smooch is available. Maybe your marriage isn't going good. That's not what this is about. The point I'm getting at is that hug. It's a rare hug, and it looks like a good hug. Sorry to get all creepy, man. Yep, lost a subscriber. That one. It's a good hug. It's one of them kissy hugs. That's a good hug. Until she gets blocked, and learns that someone is on Seasmoke, and then she gets on that Cyrax to go have a chat with whoever's riding that dragon. She's like, that's my property, kinda. All right, there you go. That was the whole episode. Let's get into differences. A lot of them. I'm only gonna go through a few. So it was Otto who wrote the letters that are bringing in the triarchy, not Aemond. Aemond doesn't suggest it. It's just Otto. So Otto sent them at the start of the blockade, and it just took this long to get results, and that's why Otto got fired, but it does later pay off, right? Ariana Targaryen, right? Ariana is the Targaryen that they name as the Targaryen princess who married a Darkling. Yeah, doesn't exist. As far as I know, there is no Ariana. I do know the name of every Targaryen princess, not off the top of my head, but absolutely who lived before now, and none of them married a Darkling. Yeah. So I don't think he was suggested. I think he just claimed one. So in the books, like a bunch of folk are trying to claim them, and he's just one of them. That's it. Adam and Alan of Hall. So let's talk about this finally, because I didn't want to drop about the whole bastard thing. But they actually, in the books, they claim to be children of Laenor. And yes, Laenor is also gay in the books. So that's why Corlys is rumored to be their real dad. But officially, in the histories, Corlys is their grandfather. But because Laenor preferred fish over whatever, goose over duck or whatever, because he was gay, everyone's like, it was probably Corlys, but Corlys never actually says it, and it's pretty much just assumed in the book that it was probably Corlys, but officially it is Laenor. And that kind of gets on this whole thing. So I've always kind of thought like of dragon blood, right? Like they've never been like Valerians, of course, have the Valerian blood in them, right? But they never were dragon lords until Rhaenys married Corlys and their direct kids were. So if it was actually Corlys' kid, could they be able to fly dragons? Wouldn't it actually have to be Laenor's? And maybe Laenor was, bisexual, and maybe he was sleeping with a lady. Which why not? Maybe, right? But I'm only saying that because like they can fly dragons. Spoilers, but Adam is on Seasmoke. I think that was implied, right? So I don't know. Maybe that's not true, but it was always something that I thought from the books, like, whoa, doesn't it have to be Laenor? But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe anyone with, like, we do know later on, like, people with either very little Valerian blood or zero, also in the books, talking about Nettles, is able to fly a dragon, right? So, and I don't think Nettles is going to be in the show. That's going to be the next difference I'm talking about. So maybe they do have enough Valerian or Targaryen blood somewhere, although we do know that there is probably marriaging before the conquest. Of course, since the conquest, no male Targaryen or no female Targaryen has married in the House Valerian until Rhaenys, and Corlys is her husband, not a kid of hers. So anyways, I don't know. Maybe I'm way off. Maybe Targaryen blood doesn't matter that much. I don't know. I always thought it must have actually been Laenor was actually their dad because of dragon blood, but maybe I'm way off on that. I don't know. That's just my own fan stuff. This is why I don't do theories. Okay. Where was I? So, the Dragon in the Veil, if it's Sheep Stealer, that is a huge change. And that's what I'm getting at. Nettles, I'm not going to get into it too much right now because I'm probably just going to wait for the next episode to talk about that. But yeah, if that's actually Sheep Stealer, like I said earlier when I was talking about George seeming to be a little upset about this, I'm not trying to. Maybe he was upset. All right, it was a rather pointed message, but yeah. The Gay Abandon is the ship that Jane Eyre is sending them to Pentos on, but it didn't leave from the Vale in the books. It just left from King's Landing. There are the major differences. I've been meaning to actually talk about the Corlys being Adam and Alan's dad for like a long time. I was thinking about making a video for that, like even before I like kind of started making the videos I was now. But I didn't really want to spoil anything for the show because also Dragon was already going on. And I just never did. So yeah, I figured more people would be talking about it if it's clearly Rhaenyra. I just think it is. But again, I might be way off on that. That's why I don't do theories. Okay, guys, thank you for watching. Click like, subscribe. I'm going to be covering the other 2 episodes left, right? There's only 2 episodes left. I think they're doing 8. So, yeah. What do you think about that? What do you think of this episode? And that's all I got. Peace.